December 2nd, a date that has witnessed America make choices that would define its global posture, cost innocent lives, and create environmental catastrophe. It's a day when foreign policy doctrine was born, when safety regulations failed, and when corporate negligence crossed oceans. What connects these events? A pattern of declaring intentions without preparing for consequences. This is the story of America's greatest mistakes on December 2nd. America's history is marked by bold declarations and ambitious projects. But sometimes the gap between intention and execution, or between power and responsibility, has led to disaster. On this December 2nd, we're examining three critical errors: a foreign policy doctrine that created generations of intervention, a fire that exposed deadly neglect, and an industrial accident that revealed the global cost of corporate failure. Let's begin with the declaration that would shape the Western Hemisphere. Mistake number 1. The Monroe Doctrine, a legacy of intervention, 1823. It's 1823, with European empires potentially eyeing the newly independent nations of Latin America. President James Monroe addresses Congress. The context: intended to protect fledgling republics and assert U.S. regional dominance, the doctrine declared the Western Hemisphere closed to new European colonization and political interference. The December 2nd Declaration. On December 2nd, 1823, President James Monroe delivered his 7th annual message to Congress, articulating what would become the Monroe Doctrine. The mistake. The fatal flaw was not the principle, but its future interpretation and application. It evolved from a defensive policy into a justification for over a century of U.S. political and military intervention in Latin America. The big stick policy and gunboat diplomacy that often suppressed sovereignty rather than protected it. The consequence: the doctrine created deep-seated resentment and anti-American sentiment across Latin America. It established a pattern of the U.S. acting as hemispheric police, often supporting authoritarian regimes that served its interests, undermining democracy and stability for generations. The lesson: a policy designed to protect freedom can become the very tool for undermining it when wielded with imperial ambition rather than cooperative partnership. Mistake number 2. The Coconut Grove Fire, a preventable tragedy, 1942. From a century-spanning foreign policy mistake to a single night of horrific, preventable tragedy in the heart of an American city. The context: during World War II, the Coconut Grove was Boston's most popular nightclub, often packed beyond capacity with servicemen and civilians. The December 2nd Inferno. On December 2nd, 1942, a fire sparked in the basement lounge. It raced through the overcrowded, decorated club in minutes, fueled by flammable decor. Patrons were trapped by locked or revolving doors and windows that were boarded up or hidden by drapery. The mistake: this was a catastrophic failure of building safety, regulation, and enforcement. The club had blatant fire code violations: overcrowding, flammable materials, inadequate exits, and locked doors. Inspections had failed. The consequence: the fire killed 492 people, the deadliest nightclub fire in U.S. history until 2003. It led to a complete overhaul of national fire safety codes, including requirements for revolving doors to have breakout panels, exit signs at floor level, and strict limits on flammable decorations. The lesson: complacency in enforcing life-saving regulations, especially in places of public assembly, is a recipe for mass tragedy. Profit and convenience can never outweigh basic safety. Mistake number 3. The Bhopal disaster, corporate negligence, 1984. From a domestic safety failure to an international industrial catastrophe, where an American corporation's failures had global repercussions. The context: Union Carbide's pesticide plant in Bhopal, India, stored large quantities of highly toxic methyl isocyanate, MIC. Safety systems were under-maintained, and cost-cutting measures were rampant. The December 2nd catastrophe. Just past midnight on December 2nd, 1984, local time. Water entered a MIC storage tank, triggering a runaway chemical reaction. A toxic gas cloud escaped the plant and swept over the sleeping city of Bhopal. The mistake. This was the result of gross corporate negligence and double standards. Union Carbide operated a plant with safety systems inferior to its identical plant in West Virginia. Warnings from engineers were ignored, maintenance was deferred, and emergency plans were non-existent for the surrounding community. The consequence? An estimated 3,800 to 16,000 people died immediately, and over 500,000 were injured, with suffering continuing for generations through birth defects and chronic illness. It remains the world's worst industrial disaster and a permanent stain on the legacy of corporate globalization. The lesson: when corporations prioritize profit over safety, especially in countries with weaker regulations, they commit violence by negligence. Global operations demand a single, high standard of responsibility. Conclusion: so what connects a presidential doctrine, a nightclub fire, and a chemical leak? They all represent failures of foresight and responsibility at massive scales. In each case, a declaration of intent, whether geopolitical, commercial, or industrial, was made without a full commitment to the safeguards and ethical considerations required to prevent disaster. The results were centuries of resentment, hundreds of lost lives, and thousands poisoned. December 2nd teaches us that power, whether political, economic, or industrial, demands proportional responsibility. Without it, bold visions become blueprints for tragedy. Which of these failures of responsibility do you find most alarming? Let me know in the comments. If you believe in learning from history's hardest lessons, please like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.